It's a lovely town. I love being there. You know, it's a great place to come back to. My family loves it. It's a second home for my kids. So it's funny when we're in LA and we're about to come back. I ask the kids, "Are you excited about going home?" And then when we're in Marshfield and we're going to go back to LA, it's like, well, we have to go home tomorrow. So it's home is both places, I think. We hang out at Green Harbor, and my son was in camp, and my daughter took sailing lessons, and she's on a swim team. So we're just embracing the summer months there. Very different. It's it's the atmosphere that my wife and I both grew up with, and it's something that we want to share with our kids, and we want them to be with all of their cousins and aunts and uncles and grandparents, and it's family. It's coming back to the family, and I think that's incredibly important for them. Oh yeah, there's a bunch of stuff. I mean, I took my son to Friendly's. We don't have Friendly's in LA, so I took my son to Friendly's for the first time, which he loved. We go to a lot of the local places, and rainy days we're at Alley Cat going bowling, and there's a lot to do in the area, and we're discovering new things all the time. They did. There was a radio station. The local radio station was doing a live remote from our porch, so I dropped by and said hi for a while. But yeah, I'm over there all the time during the summer. It's fun. It's great. It's one of those places that people actually congregate at, and that was important to me in terms of preserving it. That was the main impetus to keep it going. Is that not many of those places exist, and I wanted this one to stay afloat. There aren't that many local sort of communal places as there used to be, and so much interaction has now become over the internet that I think it's nice for people to actually go and talk and have a cup of coffee and communicate with one another. And it sounds very old school, but it's important to me. As a little kid, I would listen to comedy albums. I started with Bill Cosby and George Carlin and Steve Martin and Firesign Theater, National Lampoon. At the time, I didn't realize it. I just enjoyed listening to them, and I would listen to them over and over, and I'd pick up the needle and I'd go back to specific parts and listen to them again. And I guess what I didn't realize at the time was I was sort of studying them. I was just enjoying them, but I think I was sort of studying like the timing of it all and what made something funny, at least to me. It was incremental. I've been working steadily since like the late '80s, and it was those incremental steps up the ladder and into different TV shows, and one thing sort of led to another. It wasn't really until college. I thought I was going to go to law school, and so I had to make a really strong decision whether it would be law school or whether I would try acting, at least for a little bit. And my parents are the ones who encouraged me to try acting and at least give it a shot. So that I moved to Chicago and lived there for 10 years. I think I'm a little more shy in person than people necessarily expect me to be. I'm not. I don't tend to be on all the time. I'm not. I don't think I'm like naturally like a comic per se, or trying to be funny. But which is sometimes off-putting to people, because sometimes people will expect me to be much funnier than I am, and I'm just not really that funny in real life. And my kids think I'm I think my kids are really funny. They're way funnier than I am, and my wife is really funny too. So every night my wife will read. I read with my daughter when I'm putting her to bed. My wife reads with my son, and she'll be telling him stories and doing different characters, and I'll hear them laughing through the door. It's really, really funny. I found it interesting that all of our first choices actually wanted to be in the movie. So we got top of the list right down the line in terms of casting. And I thought the script was great. I thought it was inventive, and it took a subject matter that's well tread and I believe took a different spin on it. And it's surprising, but more than anything else, I found it to be human. I thought the story was very real and very human and funny at the same time. And that's a fine line to walk when you want something to be both funny and dramatic at times. And those are the things that appeal to me the most. Well, one of my goals with the script was to never have it become a cliche, because I think movies about love can easily become cliche and sort of pedestrian and cloying and manipulative, and especially when you go into the dramatic side of it. And I found that those guys had that same barometer. They had that same awareness of never wanting to go into sort of a manipulative mode, because a comedy, which then becomes a drama, can be manipulative if it's not earned. And I felt, and they agreed, that all of those moments, all of those more serious moments, had to be earned. The characters had to be grounded. You had to relate to them. The story had to hold together, and I thought they just shared that. The script was in great shape, but it also allowed for a lot of improvisation and a lot of exploration. So I felt that it was, when we had time, to explore and to try to discover other ways of doing a scene and mixing it up and changing it around. Because I feel like in the end it's better to give the directors and the editors a lot of different variations, because you just never know how something's going to edit together or what you're going to need in any given time. So I think different levels of performance and different types of line readings, some that might be more comedic, some that might be less so and more muted, and kind of just give them the options to put together the puzzle. So incidentally, we had so many potential titles for this movie. There must have been 500 different titles that were pitched. Wingman was one, but see, I don't think that the movie was about a wingman. I felt like that's sort of the title the studio would have wanted, because it's real, it's kind of on the nose, but that's not what this movie's about, because it starts with this guy getting a makeover and getting out into the dating pool, but it's not about that. And I think I don't necessarily want to sell the movie as that, because I feel like it's much more than that. That's just a way in to these lives. I don't know what it says necessarily about modern men. I think my character's going through something that I believe a lot of people go through, both men and women, when the rug is pulled out from under them and they've been not really living life, but just sort of existing. And it takes something kind of jarring to snap them out of it and get them to reassess. I don't know. By my own experience, I found my soulmate, so that's the only thing I have to gauge it by. I don't know if it's necessarily a common or uncommon thing. I got lucky. I think, and during this junket, I've been asked, how do you have a successful relationship or a marriage? And I'm no expert. I don't know. I have no answers to that. But I've been responding with the fact that I was lucky. I married the right person, and we were able to grow together and change together and respect one another. So we were both in our 20s at the time. But she was obviously the one. And it's hard. It's a crapshoot, because you could know someone for a year, 2, even 3, then get married, but still not know anything about them. And I continually learn new and wonderful things about my wife, and she about me. And so it's good that I like the stuff that I'm learning. I'm not a relationship expert, so I would never dare give anyone else advice on relationships. I just know that I was lucky. I was very fortunate to marry who I married, and so the advice is, be lucky and marry the right person. But apart from that, I just think it's a crapshoot. You don't know, and I lucked out. She's just she was she is the right person for me, and I think I am the right person for her. No, I think I'm just going with what appeals to me. And to have the luxury to do that is remarkable. I just finished a movie with Keira Knightley that's pretty dark. It's about kind of finding the value of life 2 weeks before the end of the world. A meteor is going to hit the world and hit the Earth, and so that's pretty dark, and it's funny at the same time. But the script haunted me. I mean, I could not stop thinking about it after I read it. So that's why I was inclined to do it. No, and again, I just don't want to be pretentious about, yes, I need to move into the more dramatic roles and express myself and prove to everyone that I'm capable of doing it. It really isn't that. I think that's a bad reason to choose roles. It's more like who I would be working with, and would they be fun to do? Would they be entertaining to watch? Is it an industry story or character?
Well, there was a film a couple years ago that was mentioned, and it was a film that you and Ed Helms might do. And it's about the Civil War.
Warriors.
What's the status on that?
We just got a rewrite on that.
Okay.
So yeah, that's still being worked on. It's a really funny premise, but and I would love to work with Ed again. The way 40-Year-Old Virgin came together was, at the time I didn't know, because it was really my first experience with writing a movie or developing anything. During Anchorman, he came to me and said, if you ever have an idea for a movie, let's get together. And then after we wrapped, I went in and I pitched a couple of ideas. And literally, 40-Year-Old Virgin was one I just threw in at the end. Well, this is the premise that I have for a movie. And he said, I could sell that today. And and literally that, like the next day or two, he was over at Universal and he casually mentioned it to one of the executives, and she bought it on the spot. And we started writing it. We wrote it over the summer, and then we started shooting it in the fall. And then the whole thing, like from the time I pitched it to him, it was a year later was the opening. It was so quick and so fast. I could not have partnered with a better person. I completely lucked out.